Breaking news on the afternoon edition. The verdict just handed down against the man accused of killing Cash App founder Bob Lee. A jury finding the defendant, Nima Momeni, guilty of second-degree murder. That verdict carries a 15 years to life sentence. Hello, I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We have brought you this trial from start to finish. Now with the verdict announced, we are getting a reaction from legal experts and a look at what's next. First, though, we want to go live to our Lauren Toms, who's been following this case from day one. Lauren, your reaction to the verdict.
Yeah, Ryan, this was a stunning moment inside the courtroom this morning as the verdict was read in this case, convicting Nima Momeni of murder in the second degree. But the morning started, the reading of this verdict really started with a verdict of not guilty of murder in the first degree, which is what Momeni was charged with. That was a sentence that carries 26 years to life in prison. So with this second degree murder conviction, that takes that minimum sentencing down to 15 years, but his attorney is still saying that that was not a good outcome for their client. But on the flip side, members of Bob Lee's family are relieved by this conviction. They were present in dozens of them were present inside the courtroom today. We saw Bob Lee's former wife, Krista Lee, along with their two teenage children. We saw Bob Lee's brother and father all present, along with a handful of family and friends all present for the reading of this verdict. And they were waiting with bated breath as they learned the outcome of the man accused of not only killing their loved one, but with intention behind it. I spoke with Bob Lee's brother, Oliver, outside of the courtroom after the verdict was read. He told me that when the first verdict of Nima Momeni being found not guilty of murder in the first degree, he told me his heart stopped there for a minute, but he told me he was relieved by the conviction of murder in the second degree. Take a listen to what he had to say.
This has been an extremely hard process to be able to try and get through and to just live through, right? We're happy this part's over, right? And we're happy it's a guilty verdict, and we're very thankful to the jury and the district attorney and the police of San Francisco.
Now, we also heard from Nima Momeni's mother after the verdict was read. She said that it's unfortunate all around and that it's unfortunate what happens when all these people consume drugs. And this is the outcome of that drug consumption. We do know that drugs played a major role throughout this case and in this incident about a year and a half ago. And so Nima Momeni's mother speaking about the severity of how drugs played a role in this case. But Momeni now facing a sentence of 15 years to life for the murder of Cash App founder Bob Lee in April of last year. And we're learning just now that a preliminary hearing to set a sentencing date at this point has been set for January 10th.
And Lauren, you talked about the reaction from Bob Lee's family as that verdict was read. What was the reaction from Nima Momeni himself or his family members as the verdict was read?
Yeah, Ryan, well, I actually sat directly behind Nima Momeni's mother in the courtroom, and she was quite literally on the edge of her seat from the moment she entered the courtroom. Now, in a break from his usual behavior when people enter the room, Nima Momeni throughout the trial had stood to sort of greet everyone as they walked in. Today, that was not the case. He was seated at his attorney's table, dressed in a suit with his back facing the audience, clearly very fixated on what this verdict may be. When it was read, we did see him press his hands to his face at one point, but a judge issuing a very serious warning to members of the audience there to not have any audible reaction when this verdict was read. That applied to Momeni himself. So when this verdict was read, the entire courtroom was completely silent, but you can feel both the intensity of this verdict for Nima Momeni and members of his family, and at the same time, a sense of relief for the closure of this period for Bob Lee's family, especially as they count down the days to Bob Lee's birthday, which is this upcoming Friday, Ryan.
Okay, thank you, Lauren Toms, for one last time covering the trial of Nima Momeni. Thank you very much. Well, moments after the trial, we also heard from Nima Momeni's defense team. Here's attorney Tony Brass with his reaction to that verdict.
This is obviously very disappointing for us. These are hard-fought battles. And within this battle, there was a lot of decisions made. Some of them we don't think are right. And that's why we have an appellate court. We're going to analyze this when we have time to calmly go through what the legal issues were. And if there were decisions that were made and evidence that was presented that should not have been, we're going to take that up. Mr. Momeni continues to have a right to fight for his freedom.
And someone else who has been with us throughout this trial is criminal defense attorney Shannon Dugan. And Shannon, you've been following this case. Were you surprised by the outcome of the verdict, especially if the jury spent 7 days deliberating all the witnesses' testimony and all the evidence?
You know, I was a little surprised. I think many people were expecting possibly a verdict of voluntary manslaughter, given that the defense team really left no stone unturned. Nima Momeni himself testified for 2 days. He answered over 50 questions from jurors. There was a self-defense expert presented by the defense team. And really, there was still no clear answer as to motive or where the knife came from. So this jury could have quite possibly found reasonable doubt within everything that the defense presented. So a second-degree murder verdict was, I think, surprising for some and a victory for the prosecution.
And looking back in hindsight, there was a lot of questions of whether or not Nima Momeni should take the stand. In this case, did it help or hurt the defense?
I think he really had to take the stand because the defense was self-defense. There was nobody else that could testify for him that he acted in self-defense. So I really think there was no choice. If Nima Momeni had not testified, this jury quite possibly could have come back a lot sooner with a guilty verdict.
So take us through what's next. I know we have to go through sentencing, and we're also expecting some appeals from the defense also.
Yes. So what happens now is the case will be referred for an evaluation, probably by the probation office, for a report on Nima Momeni. They will look at his background, at any prior convictions, at any criminal history he may have, which is really very minimal. They will write a report, and then both the defense and the prosecution will write a sentencing memorandum outlining what sentence they think is fair and appropriate in this case. Because it's a second-degree murder conviction, it's 15 to life. If it were a voluntary manslaughter case, it would be many years less, and there would be more to talk about. But there is a minimum here of 15 years. But both sides will be presenting their side about what they think an appropriate sentence is within the legal guidelines.
Okay. Well,
and for appeals, there's several appeals that I'm sure the defense is going to file.
Okay, well, criminal defense attorney Shannon Dugan, thank you for your insight throughout this trial. So recapping the jury's decision here, Nima Momeni found guilty of second-degree murder in the stabbing death of Cash App founder Bob Lee. As Shannon Dugan just mentioned, the verdict carries a 15 years to life sentence and includes an enhancement for using a knife in this crime. We will stay on top of those next steps, including the sentencing, and bring you any updates.